Good morning, and welcome to the Brick by Brick podcast with Ronald Pauleus, where we talk principles woven throughout the world, principles of success that you can use to build the life you want, to build the life that's worth living brick by brick. Load, fire, aim. I know. That order is backwards, and in fact, it's ready, aim, fire. But how far are you with your goals? I did a SMART goal podcast a while back, and I hope it'll, and I'm sure it was helpful to you. That was the load part. Are you firing? Are you taking action? It's a Monday morning and you're listening to this podcast. Thank you so much. And I've already gathered that you're the type of person that wants different. You want different for yourself. You want different for your family. You want different for your friend group. You want different for your physique. You want different for your spiritual. You want different for your mind. And you want different for your financials. And so my question is, have you fired yet? If you're going to build the life you want brick by brick, you got to fire. So many I've found live in the loading phase. They're planning, they got their journal, and they've written out their goals, and okay, this is what we're gonna do, and they made their vision, which is amazing and which is needed, but they lived there too long. Then they finally get into the phase where they're aiming. All right, we want to get into real estate. We've made the plan. We want 15 rentals in 5 years. Okay. Let's start aiming. Let's start deciding where we're going to buy those rentals at. Florida, okay, that's a popping market. Arizona, okay, that's another market. Maybe we want to stay away from Oregon and California. Or okay, great. We finally made a decision, and they live there longer than they should. And then they fire. Boom. All right, let's pull the trigger. Let's get our first property in Florida. And by the time they've gone to the firing part, they've finally taken action, they've lost out on a lot of time. And that's the case with a lot of goals. You want to start losing weight. And so you make your plan. All right, I'm going to lose this amount of weight in this amount of time. You're loading. And then you start to aim. All right, so in order for me to do this, I need to focus on exercise. Okay, I need to also focus on eating well. Okay, I need to focus on this. I need to, whatever it is. And then finally, you fire. But you know what? Can I quote Mike Tyson? Is that okay? Everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face. What am I communicating? It's this. There is so much you can do planning. Valuable. There's only so much you can do aiming. Valuable. But you know what I found? You learn more when you fire. You learn more when you've taken action. and you've actually started doing the thing. Zig Ziglar said, you don't have to be great to start, but you got to start to be great. And it's the year 2025, and it's January, the last Monday of January. How much time have you been spending on the loading part, on the aiming? Have you taken any action? I think too many people allow the analysis of paralysis, or the paralysis that comes from analysis, to stop them. And the reality is, you got to lay down the brick. Now, don't get me wrong, you should be planning, you should be aiming, you should be focusing and targeting your energy. But too many people allow those to be barriers from actually taking action. You learn more from taking action than you learn from planning and aiming. I remember learning to drive a stick shift for the first time. I was purchasing a car, a Toyota Corolla, and it was all new to me. My instructor was actually a friend of the car salesman, or the dealer. He owned his own lot and he sold his own vehicles. And so he told me the concept. You want to make sure you are pushing in the gear so that you can move the clutch, and then you go into first gear. And then there's so many moving parts. Both of your legs, both of your feet are engaged and involved in this process. And to reverse, you gotta go all the way to the right. In my vehicle, it was a 5-speed. So there's all these moving parts. And after you hit a certain speed, you have to go to the next gear. And there was so much that I could do and learn in the planning, in the loading. So much I could do and learn in the aiming. It was when I started taking action that I learned more than what I was taking in through analysis. And that's why it is load, fire, aim. Because the reality is, when you are taking in the knowledge from the action that you're taking, you can more quickly adjust. I got the mechanics of how to drive a manual, but it wasn't until I started driving the manual that the pieces of the puzzle started connecting in my mind. Because what I found was, I would go and drive another manual because I was out of town and had a rental, or another friend had a manual they wanted me to check out, and their layout was a little bit different than my Toyota Corolla. And so I did some learning in this new vehicle, even though I knew the basics of how to drive a manual. I got on a farm truck that my friend owns out here in Oklahoma City, and I had to learn how to drive that, and that's a manual. It was a little bit different, but the concepts were still there. And so in the same way, you almost have to have a learner mindset, a student mindset for the rest of your life, because even when you get and have acquired concepts and ideas, sometimes those concepts and ideas apply differently to other things. the skeleton, the bones may be the same, but what ends up being placed on them are completely different. And so Brian Tracy, in his book Eat That Frog, said this: the key to success is action. Action. It's not learning. It's not aiming and figuring out which direction to go. It's action. Action, action, action. And so on this last Monday of January in 2025, my question to you is, are you taking action? You can always adjust. You can always turn the ship. You can always adjust the altitude. You can always increase or decrease the speed. But all that only matters if you are in movement. If you're taking action. You can't steer a parked vehicle. Load, fire, aim. Don't let this year go by and you enter into 2026 and you spent 2025 loading and aiming, or just loading, just planning. Take the action. Lay the bricks and move forward towards the goals. Load, fire, aim. Because action produces knowledge. Did you catch that? Action produces knowledge. There's only so much you can do studying and preparing. Because when you're out in the field, it can be completely different. I know. I studied years at Bible college, learning to be a pastor. And then when I started pastoring, I'm an assistant pastor now, a lot of it was different. Several things I learned in the books has not applied to everyday life, to souls, to human beings with emotions and the ability to think. And so many black swans have showed up. Tell me where in the textbooks you will find what to do after a homeless person tries to burn your church down. You won't. And so in the same way, there's so many things you can prepare for, you can plan for, you can have vision for. And then you start to get into the field, and then you learn 10 times more than what you got from a textbook and YouTube video. Load, fire, aim. And if you take that approach, you'll find by the end of 2025, you'll be closer to your goals. So, what are you waiting for? What are you doing today to take steps towards laying that next